What's up, everybody? Today I'm playing some Blox Fruits because I want to talk about some of the things about this game that could be better or worse. You know, for the community, there's a lot of things out there right now that people are just, like, you know, fighting over for zero reason. So, I want to talk about these things with everybody. So, to get us rolling, first of all, let's talk about spamming builds. First of all, I can't say I'm 100% innocent in this argument because yes, I've also called people out for spamming. However, that's based off of, like, you know, M1ing or, like, what's it called? I want to say, like, just using the shit out of abilities. Kitsune is a good deal for that. So is Dragon. However, I want to talk about something smaller, like Shark Anchor. People call Shark Anchor a spam build mostly because it has an AoE effect whenever you land hits. So for an example, for those of you that don't know, this is the AoE effect it does. It hits everything, and it disables hockey, I'm pretty sure. And then there's also, what's it called? Like, you know, the X ability. I'm not sure if that breaks hockey. However, this is what that would look like in game. You just kind of dash towards the enemy and keep them pinned down. For, the next thing I want to talk about with it, it's not a spam. I want to say Shark Anchor has a cooldown like everything else. The definition of spamming for this game in context to this game is, like, spamming is like M1ing with Buddha Fruit. That's probably, like, the hardest I've ever heard people talk about spamming. Aside from that, if you want to talk about spamming, talk about Buddha Fruit. Aside from that, next we've got Sanguine Art. People call this a spam. There's, like, a lot of reasons why they call it a spam, and I don't understand those reasons because it's like it doesn't make a difference. So first of all, they say the C is a spam move because it grabs people, and supposedly because its hitbox is so big. First of all, the hand or the limb does not appear to have any, like, limitation in the joint. Realistically, this is an item that's meant for, like, you know, other things. For an example, look at it this way. This is like an otherworldly creature reaching its hand out to grab you, and obviously it's an extension of the hand. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're in the way or out of the way. If you're anywhere near a range, then that's going to, you know, hit somebody. That's not what makes it a spam. So let's say I hit right here. It still grabs them because obviously there's no limitation to the direction of where the Devourer of Worlds goes. So we're gonna take that off the list for spamming. Second of all, with Sanguine Art, Bloodbane Drain does not make this martial art a spam. Bloodbane Drain literally is like a healing buff and, like, a damage buff. So to be clear, if you're dumb enough to get caught in these moves, that's your fault, not ours. Because first of all, sometimes these are hard to hit and sometimes easy to miss. This NPC is moving towards me and I don't always have to hit him, and playing this with, like, first person, that's even worse to try to hit. Aside from that, that's, like, all that will do is, like, steal HP and heal the user. Next, is the fact that it just only hits whenever, like, my fist hits. That's kind of it. Next, we're going to talk about Scarlet Tear. Scarlet Tear is literally just, like, you know, the remake of Dragon X in full transformation, except that, you know, it doesn't go as far and it actually, like, does something. And we have to get up close and personal to use this. So it's not like a lot of NPCs have a choice, really. Next, I want to talk about what's it called? Soul Guitar. Soul Guitar isn't exactly a spam because this is hard to hit. So, for an example, if I use the Z move on NPCs, obviously, if I wasn't standing still and they weren't standing still, this would be a lot harder to use. However, if you're this close to me, or anyone with Soul Guitar, using the X move exists to keep you pinned down. So obviously, like, that's not our fault for using Soul Guitar. So please don't come at us with, he's using Soul Guitar, he's not really good at the game or whatever. Next up, I want to talk about Diamond Fruit, because I've had people come to me with this. Diamond Fruit is not a spam. If you sit right here and use your, like, your V move, I'm not going to hit the NPC that's over there unless he walks into this AoE. That would be his own fault. Also, being in that AoE means you take damage over time. There's also Shard Storm, which if held down, pins the enemy down temporarily. That's not exactly a spam, because if you have your, observation hockey on, you will notice that isn't exactly an issue. So that can be dodged. Next we have Z. That's all it does. Small explosion around the body. And then we've got C, which blinds the enemy temporarily. Which isn't too good, but that also means they can't exactly see you. And then we've got the M1. The M1 just sends people flying, and all it really does is keep people pinned against the wall. That's really it. So I don't know why so many people try to make Diamond look like a spam fruit when it's actually kind of a skill build. Like, it's hard to use, especially if you're like maining fruit stats. It is extremely hard to use. But I want to talk about the next thing here. Next, we've got Kitsune. Kitsune, I can understand in some senses. However, the one thing... But I'm not in combat. There we go. One thing I want to talk about is the only thing wrong with Kitsune here is the fact that at least one of the attacks has an AoE and people call it a spam for that. So if you hold this and shoot at, let's say, both these two outlines here, it has a chance to hitting like the people in range of that, and gives us a small target to use this to hold you down for longer and then beat the shit out of you. Like, literally just beat the snot out of people. Next we have the Z move, which literally does nothing but sit on the player, and, you have to be ready for when, it deals damage, because that also means it pins you down temporarily as well. Next we have the F move, which does sweet FA. It literally doesn't do anything, like, at all. And it's hard to use as well, so obviously, like, do not call Kitsune a spam for having a limited set of moves and is kind of difficult to use. Because a lot of these moves you have to at least hit. So, for an example, C, AoE effect, X, kind of a lock-on if you're like that close, but oftentimes has a chance to be dodged, and with your observation hockey on, can be dodged. But aside from that, I want to talk about the full transformation with Kitsune. People with Kitsune just love to run with the fruit, and then they claim skill for it. That doesn't make you good. That literally just means, like, you play the game and you probably don't have any intent on keeping your account, because when you start a fight you can't finish. It literally just means you're there to talk shit. Aside from that, I've run into a fair amount of people with that as a diamond main with sword stats, and they practically do this any chance you give them. There's also, what's it called? like the transformed Kitsune. Now, I gotta be honest, the Z move had no business being able to do this. So let's talk about this. The Z move, is a freaking, like, giant beam that shoots out and can be hold. Also, the first unlocked item, that should just be an ultimate. However, when used, the range is kind of ridiculous because it could reach from this tree all the way to that tree down there, basically. And if we come to an NPC, I'm going to get up in the air and you'll see exactly what I mean. The fruit does almost over like 11k damage if like every second of that hits. Aside from that, there's nothing really different about Empyrean Kitsune. However, they should have made it to where if you simply click, it only does, like, you know, that one thing Kitsune does. It summons, like, a bunch of, like, wisps to attack the enemy. However, aside from that, we've got this, which is the same. We've got the X move, which is also the same, and then we've got the F move, which is also the same. No difference at all. Other thing is, the Kitsune fruit didn't exactly need whatever that is, because at some point now the player can, like, you know, send out this claw effect, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because in what day is Kitsune ever going to need to be that close to a player? I'm just saying. Aside from that, let's talk about the full transformation, since this is probably something that's going to be a thing again too. People love to run with Kitsune, so obviously this is going to be one of those things. You can hold the C move and jump into your enemies, and it has like a whole cutscene and everything. We've got Tales of Agony, which does this. Same thing as Kitsune, but faster, I would say. We've got Sweeping Storm, which has like a mini cutscene for the fruit. And then we've got Wild Assault, which honestly I would say, you know, is different. The only thing that's really different is it doesn't pick up the enemy, I think. Unless I'm talking about this. I might be talking about the X move. But yeah. And if you don't hold the C move, it still does a giant AoE. So, aside from that, that's just Kitsune. And we're gonna just make this clear while we're at it. I'm going to be extra clear with it. Galaxy Kit literally has no difference. All the same. You can attack things quicker. The C move has a cutscene on it. The Sweeping Firestorm also has a small cutscene on it. And then the F move has a cutscene on it. Never mind, it doesn't have a cutscene on it, but still. Nothing different. Next, I want to talk about Dragon, because this is important. So, let's get out of the transformation. Dragon isn't exactly a spam, however, people love to use it to try and make it that way. So, for an example, the Ember Dragon, literally not any different. There's nothing different, in fact, just the color change. The M1 can be used like crazy, especially in the full transformation. However, this is an AoE, which sometimes is hard to hit if your targets are not on the ground or somewhere with a surface. The C move, basically an AoE, because it just shoots a bunch of like fireballs at the enemy. And then this is hard to hit because, like, for obvious reasons, some people just don't stay still. And then we've got the Draconic Soar, which is stupidly hard to hit because, again, if people don't stay still, you're not hitting anything with it. But I'm going to get in the full transformation and talk about, well, the next transformation, actually. And we're going to talk about Dragon in its first form. So first of all, you have M1s that last mildly longer. The Z move can now also be charged, so that way you can hit enemies, and the AoE for that is much larger. So let's go ahead and talk to one of these NPCs. You're gonna see how much larger this gets. 3, 2, 1. It gets pretty large. And that's saying if I have time to charge it. The aim on it also is kind of ridiculous. So let's finish off that NPC and go up here. I'm going to aim from right here to that little mushroom. In 3, 2, 1. The aim on it isn't half bad as long as you know how to use it. You can't really say that's, you know, a spam, mostly due to the fact it takes time to charge. Same goes for the X move. There's nothing different about it. You're just bigger, which means you can pick things up a lot more effectively. And then we're also got the C move, which I think deals slightly more damage, but not that much. Plus, I'm pretty sure the Scorching Downfall just has like increased use time. So for an example, it just deals a lot of damage. Not too much, but it actually, like, hurts things. Next, we've got the F move. Nothing different. Still hard to use. Your hitbox is bigger, so I'd imagine if your player hits anything, it'll count. Wasn't really trying to hit the NPC that time, but I wanted to make it to where, you know, you can actually go through it without, like, hitting it directly. So yeah, the hitbox is slightly bigger for that. Next, I want to talk about the full transformation. If I can get to it without untransforming like I did for some reason. Next, we've got full dragon transformation. This is dragon without the hockey. This is dragon with the hockey. Now, to be clear, the M1 has a cooldown, and it doesn't deal that much damage, and it takes a second to use again, and has a charge, so it's hard to use anyway. Next, we've got this. I don't even know why I'm stuttering over that. That's so simple. We've got the Z move. I was thinking of something else when I said that, but we've got the Z move, which can be charged and does like way more AoE damage and is much bigger. Next, we've got the X move, which is basically, I can understand the X move because you literally have nowhere to go with this. It hits everything in its path. So like for an example, let's just sit right here and use it. We're going to hit all of these NPCs. 3, 2, 1. It's basically just a giant wave. I don't know what this guy is thinking, but I'll give him the chance, and I'll take him on without that. So what's he gonna do? Alright, he's taking off. Who is this? Oh, 2.5 mil. He's not doing anything. I don't know what he thinks he's gonna do by jumping on me like that. Anyway, I gotta recharge this because he decided to come try to fight me for some unknown reason. I don't know why he's wanting to get in my way the way he is. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about the C move. All the C move really does is summon a giant ball, and that can be used for, like, you know, AoE damage by the millions. So, this is what the C move does. It's not a whole lot. Really, I'm not using fruit stats, so it's not going to do anything to this guy. However, I can still use dragon to keep him pinned down. But that's the C move, basically on steroids. Next, we're going to talk about the F move, which if you aim with, you can actually pick some NPCs up and drag them. So let's try to, you know what, let's aim for the Buddha user since he's just conveniently here. You could pick them up and throw them down to the ground with a finisher move, which doesn't do a lot of damage. However, especially in water, it does a lot. But for people that use Dragon, I see you out there. No, this shouldn't be a spam fruit at all, because like full transformation, I can understand. People usually come out of the blue to use this, and with the recent like unnecessary buffs Dragon has been getting, it's kind of dumb what Blox Fruits has been doing, especially with like just that. And no, this is not me giving Blox Fruits a lot of disrespect. This is me just saying they're making updates to things that aren't necessary and should be left how they are, considering there is no other fruit out there right now that doesn't get a stun, aside from Rubber, which is immune to gun damage. So aside from that, that's really it. Next, I want to talk about, what's it called? Yeti. Yeti isn't exactly a spam because, first of all, even in the full transformation, no, I don't have all of the moves, but you can't aim the clap. It sticks to a like XZ coordinate, so it'll only look around, and it has a small like area effect for in front of the player. Next, we've got the Frostbite Boulder. Still doesn't do a lot of damage, but you know, that's sometimes hard to hit depending on where the debris lands and where the snowball lands. Next, we've got Glacial Execution, which is basically a free flash step right where the enemy is to, you know, throw them in a spot where it hurts the most. So Yeti literally has like nothing against anything, really. I'm gonna light level this up really quick. There. Next up, I want to talk about the next fruit over. So, I don't know what the F move does, and I'm not really in the mood to grind Yeti on this video, so you'll see what I mean. Next, we got Tiger Fruit, which also comes with its mutations. I'm going to get out of combat really quick, just so that way that's not an issue. We'll just go down here. Okay. So, next off, we've got Tiger. I have, like, no mastery on this. I want to work on it. However, Tiger isn't that bad when you're untransformed. The Finger Revolver is basically not that great, especially with Tiger. The Spiraling Kick is literally, as says, it, you know, it's literally just like the Leopard Fruit or Tiger Fruit in Fruit Battlegrounds. But as you can see, someone has decided to be brave and come at me using the fruit. No, that did not mean you could run away from me, bud. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not gonna chase him down. And I know who it is. It was G-Boy9. It's fine, though. He wasn't doing anything. Next, we've already talked about Diamond Fruit, but I want to talk about Gas. I don't have any mastery on this right now, but Gas users are not a spam. They literally do nothing. And especially the fact that they just use their full transformation for, like, absolutely everything. They limit themselves to 5 to 4 moves. So they're not doing anything, and their hitbox is as big as Buddha. It's just Buddha fruit with a retexture. Next off, I want to talk about dough fruit, and this is my personal opinion because I like the fruit. First of all, the Z move can be held and charged, which sends a player back slightly, but also deals good damage to the enemies. Next, we've got the X move on the ground, which, if held, creates a bigger effect and goes a lot further. But while we're waiting for that, I want to talk about the M1. The M1 doesn't take a lot of time to charge. However, using it, depending on the range of how you use it, it goes pretty far. But the cooldown lasts like 10 times longer, especially considering like the fact that it's just going out that far. I don't know why that's a thing for this fruit. The further out the M1 goes, the longer the, effect lasts. They should just make it to where once these are summoned, it doesn't take that long to spawn. So for an example, you could like send one of these out and it would like, it wouldn't do anything. You could send another one out and, it wouldn't. Actually, nah, I take all that back. Let's just make it to where like the fruit has a set M1 cooldown. For an example, the closer you are, the quicker you can use the M1 in general. However, the aim needs some work on. So honestly, all I ask is they raise the donuts up a little bit. Since we're done with the pastry river now and the M1 talk, let's talk about the pastry river range. The range on this is actually really good, and it goes pretty far too. However, for being a ground attack, it's not too bad. The X move while in the air now is pretty decent, but I feel like the hitbox on it could be bigger because all things considered, the what's it called? The limb that comes out of you for pastry river in the air is a little bit, like smaller than the player hand. So for an example, I'm going to sit here, and if I try using it against like an NPC, you'll see what I mean. Up until the point it hits something, it'll actually, like show its size. So let's do that really quick. Smaller hand, bigger hands appear whenever the enemy is hit. But that's really the extent of it. Same deal goes for when it's in the air. When it's in the air and you hold down on it, the range is mildly increased. So I could like sit up here and probably hit something from like all the way over there, which is not too bad. Who is this? He's coming to fight me. Watch. Yep. You think M1 is going to work here, buddy? I don't play by that rule. Plus, I have like infinity heals, so that's not going to do much against me. What is this now? Oh, nah, I'm out. I gotta go because they're just trying to jump me now. I think Rim Bend Off might be exploiting. I'm not sure. Let me go to my main build and you'll see what I mean. I gotta get out of combat here though. Because his range was kind of far for Buddha Fruit. So, yeah, see, he's trying to run away now. We gotta catch up. So I'm gonna equip Diamond really quick. Here, I'll even reset for him so he has time. No. There he is. We're gonna try this one more time because obviously he's gonna do that. So first of all, for Buddha Fruit, this is what I mean where it originates from, because this guy is doing the hell out of it. He's just straight up like using the M1 like a vice, first of all. I did not know he had his V4 activated, so that's kind of cheap. Plus, Buddha Fruit isn't exactly like hard to fight. He's just gonna be out here thinking he's some like tough stuff, but he's not. I wish this like other dough user was not like all up in my business. See, I know that should have hit him. Time to like get serious with this guy. Okay, I need this dough user to like buzz off because I'm getting tired of him jumping me, especially in a 1v1. Where'd he go? Nah, bro. What am I even fighting right now? Oh my god, this is like a warfare now. Because people just don't know how to like keep their distance from any fight. That dough user is annoying. I've run into the majority of the cartel here, and it's actually like getting annoying. He still thinks he's going to beat the snot out of me. This other dough user is starting to get on my nerves, not gonna lie. Yeah, Buddha user just broke his V4 to try to come after me. What a wonderful world, am I right? Buddha user down. Freaking this dough user still ever loving annoying for every little bit he is. Like, dude, I can't have a 1v1 and talk either. The 3 mils are trying to take me on is the issue too. I know what I'm doing. Do not come at. Okay, well, of course we gotta use kits in. Alright, let pain be the teacher here. You'll see what I mean. See, he's keeping his distance instead of like trying to come and fight me head on. Okay, he's down now. But do you see what I mean? A lot of people come out here just to break 1v1s and then run away. He's minding his business now. Obviously, he doesn't want to fight me in my V4 stage, but he literally broke his V4 and he couldn't do anything. He's going to use the same build as me. I just watched him use Shark Anchor. So great. I think we're dealing with that. Nope, he took off. Good. We can continue with our talk. Anyway, like I said, Shark Anchor is not a spam. It's literally people are dumb enough to run into it, or they just don't be paying attention. Plus, it's a what kind of weapon is this? Let me check. This is a like rare sword or like legendary sword. So like obviously, it's going to be better. Same goes for Hollow Scythe. It's a legendary, but it doesn't make it better, and it's extremely hard to use. So it's Dark Blade. True Triple Katana is not a spam because literally that's hard to hit moves as well. Cursed Dual Katana is not a spam because it has a cooldown, and it's not likely that people hit you with all the moves there is on it. Same for True Triple Katana. Technically, Hollow Scythe is like the non-Game Pass version of Dark Blade. It's not that great and it's hard to use. But aside from that, let's talk about the next fruit anyway. Let's talk about light. Light fruit shouldn't be a spam. I've heard people call it a spam because of the Hand of the Emperor. But first of all, okay. So say I don't like where this is going. Okay, well, they're minding their business. Anyway, light, the Z move is charged and doesn't do a whole lot of damage. That's the amount of damage it does when it's charged, but let's see how much damage it does when it's not charged. Jack Diddley. Alright, next we're going to talk about Hand of the Emperor. This can be avoided, but that's saying, like, if you have your, dodge is on, your observation hockey. Next we got Lightspeed Destroyer, which picks people up and throws them to the ground, which is really helpful for like air fights. Next I want to talk about the V move, which literally just, summons a bunch of arrows from the sky. That's it. Sorry if that sounded off. I don't know why, but I'm like salivating and I like just woke up. Aside from that, that's really it. V move just summons a bunch of arrows from the sky to rain upon your enemies. There is absolutely no way this is happening. Oh my god. Everyone wants a piece of me. He's in his full transformation and using all of his moves. Not exactly smart, buddy. Where'd he go? You're getting hit by that quite a lot, huh? Oh my god, I'm breaking before because you know what? Nah, see ya. I main Diamond Fruit. This guy's coming at me with every, ability he has. I'm not doing that. It's the 30 mil too. This is another thing. People that are 30 mil are generally just bored. Well, you can try to come up here, buddy, but I'm gonna have my fruit swapped. Never mind. Well, I can't see with that. Still can't see. I'm just gonna run because all he's doing is chasing me and it's getting annoying. Yeah, that only goes so high. I hate to say it, but you're a 30 mil and I'm not losing more bounty to this guy. His name's Ronaldo889, Vampire King 14. He looks like he spent money on this account, so he could, like, what? Become a 30 mil and act like he's not an alternate account user. Because I swear, the majority of people here use, like, alternate accounts to play, and it's, like, actually sad. I might go back to Diamond Fruit because that's my build. Alright, Vampire King, I'm here. Where'd you go? He left. That's another thing. 30 mils are here just to piss people off and keep them from getting to where they need to be. I'm overall going to call you guys out for that, because since I have your ID on video now, I'm just calling you out for that. So, the disrespect's all on you for jumping people. And second of all, not my main fruit. Third of all, midway of a video. It's just weird. If you get what I mean? Like, it's overall weird that people have to, like, do that, you know? You don't need to jump people in order to fight. And with Yeti users are not that great. I'm just saying. And I don't know what was up with that guy. He probably would have broke V4 had I gotten him any lower, but he left because he didn't get a kill on me being a 22 mil. I'm sure his only goal was to try to take bounty away from me, so that way I could, like, take longer to get to 30 mil. Because once I'm to 30 mil, I'm basically done. I'm not done with the game. I'm going to try to get 30 mil on Marine next. However, it's annoying, okay, because of how long that's going to take. And I'm not actively bounty hunting. But next I want to talk about Fox Lamp. Fox Lamp, I can understand people calling it a spam, but that doesn't always imply that the move hits, and at least the X move does literally nothing. So, for an example, it pins you down and gives us a short window to fight people, and the X move doesn't do a whole lot. So let me be clear. Sword users literally have 3 stats: melee, sword, and defense. We are not doing anything to you. As much as fruit users have, they literally only have, like, we have, like, 2 abilities on sword. That's excluding the other abilities from, like, our martial arts. And then we've got, like, you know, the fact that every other player using fruit stats does, like, that much more damage. And then we've got the X move, which if you hold down, literally just creates a giant fire on the enemy. The Z doesn't do anything when held down on here at all. But it also, for the X move, it's kind of like quick with that, so it doesn't do a whole lot. I don't know anything about Saber, so I'm not going to talk about Saber. But yeah, that's kind of it, I guess. And then we've also got Pilot Helmet, which isn't bad. It's just convenient for a lot of the runners out there. So, personally, they need to make it to where that doesn't affect, what's it called? Like, let's say you're a Kitsune user and you're fully transformed. They need to make it to where that doesn't affect the player whenever they're fully transformed and they can't run away. You know what I'm saying? At least the Pilot Helmet can't do anything. Or better yet, they should make it to where no accessory does anything. Aside from, like, accessories that will, however, affect the fruit itself. So for an example, like fruit damage, fruit defense, whatever. Aside from that, light fruit shouldn't be considered a spam. Flame Fruit, honestly. If you use Flame and you're like actually good with it, you probably have a really good skill build, which Flame Fruit doesn't have an M1, however, it is really cool. So I guess there's not a lot we can say aside from Chop Fruit, or Blade. Now, Blade literally is like just sword resistance. However, I run into a fair amount of people that use Blade and they're not really good with it. But aside from that, let's move on to rubber. Something that would be nice to see with rubber is a third gear, and it doesn't have to be exactly like the rubber fruit from, you know, One Piece. Oh boy, a 10 mil, he's probably gonna come and fight me. Anyway, the rubber fruit has an M1. It's not great, however, you know, it's decent. The M1 goes fairly far. The cannon doesn't go too far and doesn't take like too long to charge either, but it's not that great to use. Next we've got Smash, which literally sends your foot into the air and slams down on the NPC. Still not all that bad. We've got Rush, which just pins the enemy down and smacks the snot out of them. And then we've got Slingshot, which, when held, can go pretty far ranges. So for an example, let's say I want to hit that rock over there. I would activate this, and then I would grab it. And then that's like easily probably like the best thing about it. Next, the M1 with the transformation is still pretty good. It's quicker. We've got Cannon, which is also quicker. Smash, which just sends your character into the air, so that way they can do like some kind of combo. And then we've got Rush, which literally does like 9k damage just for that. I'm gonna try to hurry up and get to that really quick. But yeah, with rubber fruit, oh goodness. Okay. Okay, well, I guess I'm not doing anything with it. But that's beside the point. I'm gonna go Shark Anchor again, because that's like my main build. I'm over here thinking I'm playing Fruit Battlegrounds. This is Blox Fruits. Oh, he has the tanky. I don't want it. But I'm gonna go ahead and get out of combat. Alright, give me a moment. Alright, I'm back. Anyway, you know, rubber has potential to be good, especially, all things considered, the frickin' F move literally should count as a flight, because look at how far this sends you. You get rubber banded if you don't use it right. And I'm not sure if like players in games see that either. However, that might be stupidly good for doing something to people. Plus, not to mention, look at this. The range on it is stupid, and I could grab people from a mile away. And the cooldown isn't exactly very long either. So I could be so far away and just repeatedly send myself into my enemies. Except here, people like to be up close and personal sometimes. If you're not, honestly, I'm going to say it's a bit weird. Because that's the same excuse used for Love Fruit. Love Fruit, literally, you can ride this freaking flamingo and run away on it. Kind of dumb, I'm going to say. And they love to do this the most. But yeah, they love to run away and use the flamingo as like a sense of combat. And I can see why they think it's good now, but it's not. Aside from that, let's move on somewhere new. So next up, I want to talk about Buddha fruit. I already have, but there's a reason for that. I don't know why they say Buddha fruit can M1 because it has no M1. Look. There is no M1. None. They need to take that off because you literally are just doing this. That's the only thing about Buddha fruit. The M1 has increased range. Buddha fruit does not have an M1. Now, first of all, Buddha fruit is slightly faster on its feet whenever you're in the full transformation. You can run from people, you can run towards people, it doesn't really matter which. So first of all, the transformation does damage. The X move, not that great. It has a short cooldown, but it's fairly decent. The F is also fairly decent. So for an example, I could use the X move. It does 2,800 damage. Next, we've got the Light of Annihilation, which does, if I could see the enemy, 5,000 damage. Next, we've got the Retribution Dash, which picks up your enemies and does a solid 2,300 damage. And then we've got Twilight of the Gods, which does... It has a giant AoE afterwards, but it's not too bad. But yeah. And then this is what I meant about the M1. The M1 has longer range, I guess, though. So I can see why people use this. Like, it's their last lifeline. But aside from that, Buddha fruit isn't exactly all that great. Next, supposedly Quake is coming out with a rework, which I hope for, but let's talk about Portal users now, because this I mean every word of, and I'm not like that Mickey Mouse guy online that's posting random videos. Everything he says is opinion-based. That's how he feels about users. And honestly, I don't blame him for some of the stuff he says, but people gotta like learn not to run from fights they start, so that way the game still stays fun for everyone else. Now, Portal has a common habit. It has a M1, which isn't that bad. It also has a Z move, which allows you to dash into the enemy and deal a decent amount of damage. We've also got the X move, which, if right next to a player, does a fair amount of damage as well. And then we've got the C move, which allows you to teleport anywhere. We've got Quantum Leap, which literally just allows you to sit in one spot and the enemy gets hurt repeatedly. They're too dumb to walk around it. Now, this is a common problem. I don't have Portal Ultimate unlocked, so I can't say anything much about that. However, I am going to say that is part of the factor why Portal is so bad. People love to use Portal to do this. And with Pilot Helmet, they'll use the X move and just hide. That's it. But I want to test something. I'm going to use Portal X right here. I'm going to run all the way to that tree. You ready? Yeah, the people that use Portal can also dodge a lot of abilities, which is stupidly annoying. So, Dimensional Rift drags a bunch of players into the portal, which is hell of annoying. I don't see the place I want to be at. Oh, it's right here. Duh. This is not Turtle Mansion. This is Turtle Mountain. My bad. Does the C move have multiple uses? I went through the portal the first time and it looked that way. Okay, well, who are you? Oh, Bounty Hunter, that's his name. But yeah, aside from that, that's Portal for you. And they just love to use that to run and hide. Especially with the V move, they'll spam the hell out of that. Next up, I guess there's nothing really left to talk about. Aside from Control, Control isn't as good as it was, and honestly, people say it's an upgrade. It's a major downgrade. I gotta be honest, it doesn't really deserve as high value as it is. That's not that great. But aside from that, that's basically all the small fruits for you. I have nothing to say about Spirit or anything like that. So, yeah. Huh. I wonder why that is the way it is. Well, yeah. Anyway. Nothing else to really say about that. But yeah, those are all the fruits for you. But while we're recording, I want to talk about the PvP. I'm going to come out here. First of all, this guy's probably going to come and fight me. Oh. Here, you know what? Let me equip something different. Because I want to show this guy something. None of his moves do anything to me. Oh, his PvP's not on. Sure, why not? Okay. What the heck is this guy doing now? Yeah, a big portion of your attacks aren't doing anything. What is this? Who am I fighting exactly? I'm like actually confused. Yeah, they're both trying to fight me. Gotcha. Guns don't do anything, so that's a plus. Yeah, buddy, I can go through that. What the hell was that? Yeah, I've also got V4. It's crazy work, isn't it? Yeah, I don't want to get sucked up into that. I ain't letting you get away. Nuh-uh. Try to hit me with your gun. Yeah, I can walk through this. Oh, he's dead. Okay. Ow. I'm using rubber. You're not gonna kill me. Oh, well, I thought I could hit him with that. Guess not. Oh my god, who is this kid? Get back the hell up. I don't know who this kid is, but he's just sitting here doing God knows what. You're not exactly sneaky. Okay. So apparently that can be dodged. Good to know. Ow. Oh my lord. 3 out of 3 now. He could kill me. God kite. Okay, good enough. Oh, he is at least friendly, so lovely. I'm not gonna do anything to him then. But yeah, you can see with a lot of... Oh, that's... that... If I get too low, I'm gonna start fighting back, buddy. Just because we're friends doesn't mean I'm gonna frickin' be nice. Yeah, that's what rubber fruit does. Okay. Oh. Somebody's speed exploiting. Okay. I can't use any of my abilities for some reason. At least rubber fruit is decent for that. But a lot of people are going to be using the, what's it called? Yeah, that doesn't work on me because whatever. So, they can't hit me with guns. Not like that was an issue before. However, that implies that people with, other... Okay. Yep. Of course he's gonna try that. Yeah, that's not how that's gonna work, but... What is this now? My game is just lagging out for zero purpose. Yeah, get out of here. I'm using rubber fruit, by the way. A lot of swords are not going to do anything to me, so. There's a lot of birds outside my window. I don't even know who I was fighting. It wasn't the diamond user. I do like the way his avatar looks, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, this is Blox Fruits for you. A lot of people are just goofy on here. So, I'm gonna end this video off. This was just me talking about Blox Fruits. I had to be honest. There's not a lot of things on here that people understand, and there's also not a lot of things that the development team does to fix. Like, obviously, me personally, I can make a custom in-game chat thing where anything said can be monitored. However, the only problem with that is I don't trust, like, Roblox to come at me for making a custom created chat box. So, however, I am going to say, let's say I did do that. In the future, I would love to see Blox Fruits with that, where certain messages can be censored, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, the message will be censored. So, for an example, like, let's say ease, that could be censored. Or, like any other curse word in the dictionary that Blox Fruits has banned, or like Roblox has banned. I've been banned on video before for falsely discriminating people because I was using a not so comical form of satire against a couple of kids on video, where I was calling a bunch of kids out for saying stuff against autistic people. Obviously, a bird just pooped on my window. Obviously, a bunch of people can't help the way they are, and you know, it's not exactly like something they can help at all. Sometimes people can help it, but that's like not that much. I've had a friend that had some forms of I'm not gonna call it an issue, but I'm just gonna say an unfortunate like thing to come down with. And they're not a bad person, you know. Tourette's exists, and it's like, that's not new to me. I've seen how people are with Tourette's, and personally, I'm not making fun of the person for it. I'm making fun of the end result. So, for an example, if you've ever seen Tourette's guy, you would get what I mean. However, you know, I hope she's doing alright out there, and she's having a wonderful time, you know, and I hope she graduated. Aside from that, Yeah. Back on topic. Just kids making fun of autistic people and using it in sentences like saying this is a different type of autistic. Like, huh? What does that even mean? And I was calling him out for it. I was like, why don't you make fun of a person in a wheelchair if you think it's so funny? Right? It's not. I've been called out for that on video by Roblox for saying that. And they used it as discrimination. I was like, what did I say that was discriminating? I'm not, like, separating people from that are in wheelchairs from the rest of society, because yes, this isn't news. People sit in wheelchairs. Sometimes we find people that are disabled and can't walk. That's not exactly new. I'm not going to say that's not something to be sad of. It sucks. But you get what I mean. Aside from that, I'm going to say thank you for watching this video. I know nobody gives a shit, but, you know, I'm speaking the truth. This game has a lot of things that could be better. And honestly, I could remake the entire game in my own image. Like, on my own. I've already gotten a Kitsune M1 running before. I've started working on rubber and trying to get that working. And I gotta say, it's not exactly hard. And to be honest, learning how to animate on Blender is probably one of the easiest things I can do right now. So I could straight up make a bunch of, like, abilities easy as hell. No issue. So, anyway, thank you all for watching. Again, I know you probably don't care. I will see you all in the next video. Later.